Let me tell you something: when a narcissist steps into your life, they don't walk in to build you up. They walk in to control you, but what you do next. That's what defines you. When someone tries to control you, especially a narcissist, the first and most dangerous weapon they reach for isn't a shout, it isn't a slap, and it isn't a demand. It's manipulation. It's subtle, it's slow, and if you're not awake to it, you won't even realize you've been pulled into a web until it's already wrapped around your spirit. You see, a narcissist doesn't control you by strength. They do it by confusion. They will twist your words, rewrite history, and make you question the very ground you're standing on. You start thinking, maybe I did overreact. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe it is my fault. But that voice in your head, that doubt, that's not you. That's their voice echoing inside your mind, and it started the moment you let your guard down. That's why the first step is awareness. You must know the tactics before you can ever break free. They gaslight. That's their signature move. They'll say things like, "I never said that," when you know damn well they did, or they'll claim you're remembering it wrong. Even when your memory is clear, you'll catch them in a lie, and somehow you're the one apologizing. That's not a disagreement. That's gaslighting, and it's designed to tear down your confidence one doubt at a time. Then comes the guilt, tripping. Oh, they're masters at that. They'll turn themselves into the victim in a heartbeat. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. They'll make you feel like standing up for yourself is betrayal, like you owe them your peace, your time, your voice, and when you start feeling guilty for doing what's right for yourself, that's when they know they've got you. But that's not all. There's emotional blackmail, the kind that doesn't always look like threats. It looks like silence. It looks like cold shoulders, withdrawal, punishment disguised as space. They don't need to raise their voice to control you. All they have to do is withhold love, affection, attention, and you find yourself chasing it. You start adjusting your behavior just to avoid the ice. That's not compromise, that's control. Now let's talk about the praise trap, the love bombing, that sweet, intoxicating charm at the beginning. They compliment you, shower you with attention, make you feel like the most important person in the world. But understand something: that praise isn't love, it's bait. Because once they know what makes you feel special, they will use it to manipulate you. They give just enough to keep you hooked and take it away the moment you don't comply. And what do? You try harder, you love harder, you try to fix what you didn't break. Listen to me. You cannot heal in the same place that's breaking you. A narcissist needs control like oxygen, and control requires confusion. That's why you need clarity. That's why you need education. Because once you recognize the patterns, you can disrupt them. When you know what manipulation looks like, you stop blaming yourself and start seeing them for who they really are. You begin to understand that not all arguments need a reply, that not every accusation deserves your energy, that sometimes the most powerful response is a silent mind and a steady heart. It's time to stop calling toxic behavior passion. Stop mistaking control for care. And most of all, stop making excuses for the very people who are trying to erase your sense of self. Once you understand these tactics, something shifts inside of you. You stop reacting, and you start observing. You don't fall for the drama. You don't respond to the provocation. You stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace, and you realize the power they had over you. It was borrowed from your attention, your emotions, your willingness to believe the best in them. But now you know better. This ain't about revenge. It's not about hate. It's about waking up, because once you can recognize the manipulation, it loses its power. You take back your mind, you take back your decisions, you take back your voice, and in that moment, even if the narcissist is still talking, still spinning, still trying to bait you, they've already lost, because you've remembered who you are. There comes a moment in every person's life when they have to look in the mirror and ask themselves a simple question: who am I, really? Not who they told you to be, not who they manipulated you into becoming, but who you were before the confusion, before the chaos, before the self-doubt crept in like poison in the water. You see, when you deal with a narcissist, their goal isn't just control, it's deeper than that. It's identity theft, emotional and spiritual identity theft. They don't just want to shape your behavior, they want to reshape how you see yourself, because once they make you forget who you are, you'll accept anything, you'll tolerate the insults, you'll second guess your feelings, you'll let them define your worth. But here's the truth: nobody, and I mean nobody, has the right to decide who you are, not with their compliments, not with their criticism, not with their silence, and not with their chaos. A narcissist studies you. In the beginning, they learn what makes you feel strong, what makes you feel seen, what makes you feel loved, and then they slowly, methodically, twist those very things. They make you feel like your sensitivity is weakness, your loyalty becomes a burden, your success becomes a threat, and your love, they treat it like a currency they can control. And little by little, you stop recognizing yourself. You stop speaking up. You walk on eggshells. You shrink your light so they can shine. You suppress your needs to avoid arguments. And before you know it, you're living a life that isn't yours. You're performing, surviving, trying to earn peace that should be freely given. That's not love. That's control dressed up in manipulation. But I'm here to tell you, you can take your identity back. You don't have to stay in that role they've written for you. You don't have to be the peacekeeper, the fixer, the one who always swallows your truth just to keep things calm. That's not your job. Your job is to be you fully. Unapologetically, boldly. You see, you were somebody before they met you. You had dreams, you had values, you had a voice, and none of that disappeared. It was just buried under all the noise of criticism, the noise of gaslighting, the noise of false praise and emotional games. But silence that noise and you'll hear something else, something deeper. You'll hear your intuition, that quiet, steady voice that says, "This isn't right. I deserve more. I am not what they say I am." That voice is you. Reclaiming your identity means you stop asking for permission to be yourself. It means you stop looking to someone else to validate your emotions. You feel what you feel and you know what you know. If you feel disrespected, you don't explain it away. If you feel unheard, you don't gaslight yourself. You honor your own experience. It also means remembering what makes you you. Maybe it's your creativity, your kindness, your strength, your humor, your discipline. Go back to the things that lit your fire before they came into your world and started dimming the flame. Journal, reflect, get back into your passions. Reconnect with friends who see you the real you, not the version shaped by fear or control. And listen, you don't need to become more to be enough. You don't need to fix yourself to earn love. That's the lie they feed you, that you're too much or not enough or somehow flawed. But that lie only works when you forget your truth. Your truth is this: you are whole, you are worthy, you are not defined by someone else's opinion of you. Reclaiming your identity means knowing your value even when someone else doesn't. It means standing tall even when they try to tear you down. And it means walking away from any situation, any relationship, any person that requires you to betray yourself just to keep the peace. Let me tell you, peace that comes at the cost of your soul is not peace. That's imprisonment. That's emotional slavery, and you are not born to be anyone's emotional hostage. So when you start to remember who you are truly, deeply, the game changes. You start speaking up even if your voice shakes. You start saying no even when it's uncomfortable. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for your presence, and that's when the narcissist loses their grip, not because you fought back with fire, but because you stopped needing their approval to exist. And that, my friend, is power. Because the most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest, not the angriest, not the most charming. It's the one who knows who they are. That's unshakable, that's untouchable. So if you're in that place right now, confused, tired, questioning yourself, let this be the wake-up call. You are not lost. You've just been buried under someone else's illusion. And now, it's time to dig your way out. Not to become someone new, but to return to who you've always been, powerful, clear, whole you. There comes a time in every person's life when they have to stop explaining, stop justifying, and stop negotiating their worth. That moment is when you decide to set boundaries, not out of anger, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. You see, when you're dealing with a narcissist, they don't respect boundaries, they test them, they challenge them, and most of all, they try to make you feel guilty for even having them in the first place. That's the game. They want you to believe that putting yourself first is selfish, that saying no is rude, that demanding basic respect is overreacting. But let me tell you something, setting boundaries isn't an act of war, it's an act of self-preservation. People with healthy intentions will respect your boundaries. It's only those with manipulative motives who try to break them. A narcissist will try every trick in the book to convince you otherwise. They'll say you're too sensitive, that you're being dramatic, that you used to be so easygoing, but what they really mean is you used to be easier to control. You used to bend, you used to give in, and now you're learning how to say no, and they hate it. That's when the manipulation intensifies. They'll punish you with silence. They'll explode with rage. They'll guilt trip you with crocodile tears. all to make you move your line, to make you question your right to stand up for yourself. But here's what they don't want you to realize. Boundaries are not walls to keep love out. They're fences to protect your peace. They define what's acceptable and what's not, and they teach people how to treat you. If someone walks all over you, it's because they learned they could. So when you decide to set a boundary, that's not weakness. That's power, that's leadership, that's clarity, and clarity is the one thing a narcissist can't manipulate. But let me be real with you, setting boundaries will not always feel good. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, maybe even terrifying, especially if you've been conditioned to people please, especially if you were raised to keep the peace by staying silent. But the truth is, there is no peace in betrayal of yourself. The only real peace is on the other side of truth, and your truth needs to be spoken. Start with the small boundaries. I'm not okay with being yelled at. I need time before I respond. This topic is off limits. Simple, direct, clear. You don't have to argue. You don't have to explain. You don't have to convince, because boundaries are not requests. They are declarations. And the moment you set them with conviction, the right people will adjust. The wrong ones will resist and reveal themselves. Now, don't be surprised when they push back. That's part of the process. A narcissist thrives in blurred lines. They survive in chaos. But when you become firm, not loud, not aggressive, just firm, you disrupt their control. You take the wheel back. You say, this is where I end and you begin. And that alone changes everything. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you start loving yourself enough not to be destroyed by them. You're allowed to say no without guilt. You're allowed to leave a conversation that's toxic. You're allowed to end relationships that violate your peace. You're allowed to choose your mental health over someone else's comfort. The fear that comes with boundary setting is normal. You might fear losing relationship. You might fear being misunderstood. But I promise you, what you lose in temporary comfort, you gain in lifelong freedom. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even offer you a bandage. And here's something most people forget. Boundaries don't just protect you from others, they teach you to protect yourself from yourself. They teach you not to overextend, not to over-apologize, not to betray your own intuition just to keep someone in your life. And once you get used to that feeling, that solid, grounded feeling of knowing your limits, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Because real confidence isn't loud. It's not ego. It's quiet, calm, still. It's a deep knowing that says, I don't need to explain myself to be at peace. I don't need to be understood to be respected. So let the narcissist react. Let them guilt you. Let them call you names. Let them spin their story. Because at the end of the day, their reaction to your boundary is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your peace, protect your energy, and protect the person you're becoming. That starts the moment you say, this is my line. You don't cross it, and you stand by it, not with fear, but with power. At some point, you've got to stop getting pulled into the same emotional tornado, the arguments, the mind games, the shouting matches, the silent treatment, the endless circles that go nowhere, because when you're dealing with a narcissist, the moment you react emotionally, they win. That's how they operate. That's their playground. See, they want your emotions. That's their fuel. That's their control. They feed off your anger, your sadness, your confusion. They study it. They manipulate it. And when they know how to push your buttons, they don't stop, they press harder. It could start with something subtle, a backhanded comment, a dismissive tone, a sarcastic jab. You respond, you defend yourself, you raise your voice, and just like that, you're in it. The trap, the drama, the same exhausting loop where nothing gets solved and you walk away feeling drained, questioning your sanity. You have to understand, a narcissist doesn't want resolution. They want control. They don't want peace, they want chaos they can command. And the more emotionally attached you are to their opinion of you, the more vulnerable you are to their manipulation. So the real key is learning how to detach emotionally from their drama. Not because you're cold, not because you don't care, but because you've realized something powerful. Your peace is more important than their performance. Emotional detachment doesn't mean shutting down. It means you stop taking the bait. It means you stop jumping into every fight they invite you to. It means you stop trying to convince someone who's already decided that your truth doesn't matter, because with a narcissist, it's not about finding truth, it's about winning. They don't hear to understand, they listen to respond. They twist your words, project their faults, and somehow you're always the one apologizing at the end. So you've got to step back, step out, and start seeing the patterns, not just the moments. They explode, let them. They guilt trip, let them. They play the victim, let them. That's their game, but you don't have to play. You get your power back the moment you realize you're not responsible for someone else's emotional storms. You are not a dumping ground for their insecurities. You are not a sponge for their rage. You are not their therapist, their savior, or their emotional punching bag. Let them rage, let them sulk, let them accuse, and you stay calm, stay grounded, stay in your lane, because here's the truth: nothing makes a narcissist more uncomfortable than a person they can't emotionally control. Nothing rattles them more than someone who doesn't react to their chaos. When you stop feeding their need for attention, when you stop giving them the emotional response they crave, they lose their grip. They lose their leverage. They lose their sense of dominance. Now, that won't stop them from trying. They'll try harder. They'll push buttons you didn't even know you had. But you've got to be steady. Like a tree in the wind, you might sway, but you don't break. You hold your ground, and that takes work. That takes discipline. That takes deep breathing when you want to scream. That takes walking away when you want to argue. That takes choosing peace over proving a point. It's not easy, I know, especially when everything in you wants to fight back, wants to defend, wants to explain. But ask yourself, has it ever worked? Has giving more energy to the drama ever brought you peace? No, it just keeps you stuck in their cycle, a cycle you don't have to be part of. So when the drama starts, pause, don't respond, observe, let them reveal themselves, let them talk, let them spin, let them do what they do, and you protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You start recognizing that not everything deserves your attention, not every insult needs a reply, not every battle is worth the bruises. Sometimes the most powerful move is silence, not cold silence, powerful silence, the kind that says, I know who I am. I don't need to explain myself to you. The kind of silence that doesn't come from fear but from strength. And when they realize they can't get to you not through shouting, not through guilt, not through manipulation, something shifts. You shift. You stop reacting and you start leading. You stop surviving their chaos and you start rising above it. You stop giving them the power to shape your day, your emotions, your sense of self, because they don't get to be the author of your piece. That's your pen. That's your story. That's your soul. Detach emotionally, not because you don't feel, but because you finally feel enough to protect your heart from harm. Let the storm swirl around you. You stay calm. You stay rooted. That's not weakness. That's power. And when you master that level of emotional detachment, you'll no longer fear the narcissist's drama. You'll see it for what is noise, and you'll realize the most powerful response is peace. There comes a time when you realize that living your life for someone else's approval is the fastest way to lose yourself, especially when that someone is a narcissist, because their approval, it's not real, it's a moving target. Today they like you, tomorrow they criticize you. One minute you're everything, the next you're not enough, and the moment you stop performing the way they want, they withdraw, they belittle, they blame, and what do? You try harder, you over-explain, you shrink, you hustle for a validation. That never lasts. It's like chasing water in a desert. The closer you get, the more it disappears. That's not growth. That's emotional starvation, and it will never lead you to the life you were meant to live. The truth is this: narcissists will never clap for you unless it serves them. They'll never fully support you unless your shine reflects their ego. And if your growth threatens their sense of control, they'll try to dim your light, they'll mock your goals, they'll minimize your progress, they'll plant seeds of doubt. Are you sure that's a good idea? You always start things and never finish, or worse, they'll just ignore your wins completely. No praise, no acknowledgement, just silence. That silence, that's intentional. It's their way of keeping you small. But here's the shift: the moment you stop needing their approval, you get your power back. You stop waiting for permission to rise. You stop asking someone else if you're good enough, smart enough, strong enough, because you know what you are, you always were. You just forgot, because you were too busy trying to earn something you never needed in the first place. Your growth is not up for negotiation. It's not something that requires a narcissist's permission slip. It's your birthright, it's your responsibility, it's your path, and you have to walk it, even if they don't clap, even if they criticize, even if they leave, because real growth, it's internal, it's personal. It doesn't need to be seen to be real. It doesn't need applause to be valid. It happens in silence, in the grind, in the small decisions you make every day to choose your peace, your healing, your purpose. And growth is messy. It's uncomfortable. It's lonely at times, especially when you start outgrowing people who only love the version of you they could control, especially when your self-worth Worth no longer depends on being the good one, the quiet one, the compliant one. You start setting boundaries, you start saying no, you stop justifying your existence, and suddenly, narcissist doesn't recognize you because they no longer hold the mirror you used to define yourself. Let them be confused, let them criticize, let them walk away, because your job is not to convince them of your value, your job is to walk in it. Focus on your growth. That means reading the books, listening to your gut, seeking truth over comfort, healing the wounds they tried to keep open. It means surrounding yourself with people who actually see you not as a tool, not as a trophy, but as a person. People who don't manipulate your pain, but honor your journey. And you don't have to grow loud, you don't have to grow publicly, you can grow quietly, steadily, deeply, because one day, the very life they said you couldn't have, the joy, the peace, the confidence will be the life you're living, not because they approved it, but because you did the work. And listen, you might still crave their validation sometimes. That's human, that's old programming, but don't let that craving control your direction. You can acknowledge it, feel it, and still move forward, because every step you take away from their approval and toward your own truth, that's healing, that's power, that's growth. You've got dreams, you've got purpose, you've got light inside you that no one has the right to dim. So stop asking people who can't see the light in themselves to recognize the fire in you. Your growth will intimidate small minds, your boundaries will offend the entitled, and your healing will trigger those committed to dysfunction. But that's not your burden, that's not your business, that's their battle. Yours is to rise, to build, to evolve, not for them, for you, because the goal is not to prove the narcissist wrong. The goal is to become so rooted in truth that their opinion no longer defines your identity, and when you get to that place, when you grow beyond the need for their validation, they lose all power over you. You're no longer reactive, you're intentional, you're not chasing approval, you're walking in purpose, and that is unstoppable. So here's what I want you to remember. You are not here to be controlled. You are not here to shrink for the comfort of others. You were not born to be anyone's emotional puppet, punching bag, or possession. You were born to stand in truth, to walk in power, to live in peace. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. The moment a narcissist tries to control you, it's not just a test of your patience, it's a test of your identity. Do you know who you are without their approval? Can you stand firm without their praise? Will you choose peace over performance? You don't fight fire with fire, you fight it with clarity, with boundaries, with emotional strength, and a refusal to be dragged into the chaos they create. You don't try to fix them, you focus on healing you. You stop explaining, you stop begging, you stop hoping they'll change, and instead, you change your response. You set the boundary, you detach from the drama, you take your power back, you focus on your growth, and in doing so you rise, not with rage, not with revenge, but with real power, the kind that doesn't need to scream to be heard, the kind that doesn't chase validation, because it already knows its worth. You don't need their permission to be free, you just need the courage to choose yourself. Because when you stop giving them the reaction they want, when you stop seeking the approval they weaponize, when you start living from a place of grounded truth, you become untouchable. That's when the control ends. That's when the healing begins. That's when your life becomes yours again. Stand tall, speak firm, live free. You're not just surviving anymore, you're rising.